On the evening of the 9th of June, 2008, a group of worried friends entered Travis Alexander's home in Mesa, Arizona. They had grown concerned after days of not hearing from the outgoing 30-year-old, who was usually quick to return calls. Inside the house, a foul odor hung in the air. Following the smell down the hallway, the friends made a horrific discovery. Travis's lifeless body lay crumpled in his shower. Blood had soaked the floor tiles and spattered the walls. It was a scene of unimaginable violence, and as shock gave way to anguish, one name immediately came to their minds as a possible perpetrator: Travis's ex-girlfriend, Jodi Arias. How had it come to this? Travis and Jodi had once been a happy couple in love. To find the answer, we must go back to when they first met and follow the journey of their passionate romance that spiraled into a fatal obsession. Travis Alexander was an outgoing 29-year-old salesman and devout Mormon living in Arizona. He was charismatic, generous, and had a wide circle of friends. Jodi Arias was 26, an aspiring photographer from California, soft-spoken and strikingly pretty. They met at a work convention in Las Vegas in September 2006 and felt an instant attraction. Despite living in different states, they began an intense, long-distance relationship. Jodi even converted to Travis's Mormon faith early on, eager to impress him. In the beginning, they were happy. They talked for hours, exchanged affectionate emails, and stole every moment they could together. Their connection was passionate, both emotionally and physically, even though Travis's faith frowned upon premarital intimacy. A few months into the relationship, friends began noticing trouble. Jodi was extremely possessive of Travis. She didn't appreciate him talking to other women and constantly wanted to know where he was and who he was with. One close friend even warned Travis, only half joking, to be careful because Jodi's obsession seemed dangerous. Travis still cared for Jodi but felt uneasy about how intense things had become. After about 5 months together, in mid-2007, Travis decided to break up with Jodi. The relationship had become too volatile, and he felt guilty about the sexual aspect conflicting with his religious values. Jodi was crushed by the split. Still, their story wasn't over. They continued an on-and-off dalliance for months. Even while Travis tried dating other women, he and Jodi would sometimes meet up and slip back into their familiar passion. Jodi even moved to Mesa, Arizona for a while after the breakup. Travis's friends found that alarming, as if Jodi couldn't let him go. During this period, Travis experienced several disturbing incidents. He discovered Jodi had snuck into his house uninvited. In one instance, he awoke to find her standing by his bed. On 2 occasions when he went out with other women, his car tires were slashed. Travis suspected Jodi was behind it. She also snooped through his emails and social media. Travis began referring to her as a stalker to friends and grew increasingly afraid of her behavior. Yet he still had a soft spot for Jodi and had trouble cutting her off completely. By spring 2008, Travis told Jodi once and for all that things were over between them. He had a new love interest, a friend from his church named Mimi, and he planned to take her on a work trip to Cancun in June. It was a trip he had once talked about taking with Jodi. This news infuriated Jodi. In May 2008, they had a ferocious argument. Travis told her he wanted her out of his life for good, reportedly calling her the worst thing that ever happened to me. Jodi was enraged and hurt. Friends later said that around this time, Jodi's behavior grew even more erratic, as if she was on the edge. In early June 2008, Jodi set out on a long road trip. She told everyone she was heading to Utah to visit a friend. But secretly, she had a very different plan. In the days before, a .25 caliber handgun had gone missing from the California home of Jodi's grandparents, where she was living. The same caliber gun that would soon be used in Travis's killing. She rented a car, packed her camera, and borrowed gas cans so she wouldn't have to stop for fuel in Arizona, perhaps to avoid leaving a paper trail. She also turned off her cell phone for several crucial hours as she traveled through Arizona, so her location wouldn't register. Jodi, who had been a blonde, had dyed her hair dark brown before the trip, possibly as part of her preparation. All signs later indicated that this journey was a calculated mission. On the 4th of June, 2008, Jodi arrived at Travis's house in Mesa. Travis hadn't been expecting her, but he let her in. Despite their issues, he didn't anticipate danger from Jodi. They spent several hours together that day. They became intimate. It was televised as evidenced by time-stamped people around the country on Travis's camera, showing them together that afternoon. The trial was dissected on television news and social media. Commentators compared it to a real-life soap opera, given its mix of sex, lies, and violence. Crowds lined up outside the courthouse, and the case dominated headlines. The prosecution laid out a clear motive. They argued Jodi was a jealous ex who couldn't let Travis go, and decided that if she couldn't have him, no one would. They highlighted the planning, including the stolen gun, the gas cans, and the attempt to destroy evidence, as proof of premeditation. The defense team, on the other hand, admitted Jodi had killed Travis but claimed it was not murder. It was self-defense, they said. They portrayed Travis as emotionally abusive and hinted he had a violent side. According to the defense, on the day of the killing, he attacked Jodi in a sudden rage, and she had no choice but to defend herself. To support her defense, Jodi took the witness stand in her own trial, an unusual move in a potential death penalty case. Over 18 days of testimony, she tried to convince the jury that Travis had been controlling and abusive. She recounted explicit details of their sex life and portrayed herself as a victim of his temper. She even alleged that Travis had deviant sexual interests, at one point accusing him of pedophilia. It was a shocking claim not backed by any evidence. In her new version of the story, she said that during an argument on the 4th of June, Travis became angry and attacked her, so she feared for her life and fought back. She told the jury she could not remember actually stabbing Travis. She claimed her memory went blank after the gun went off. Many observers found her testimony unbelievable, given the evidence of how brutally Travis was killed. The prosecution's cross-examination of Jodi was fierce. They went through her lies, from her initial claim of not being at the scene, to the fake intruder story, to this self-defense narrative, showing the jury how her account evolved each time she was confronted with new evidence. The prosecutor also emphasized the sheer overkill of the attack versus Jodi's minor injuries. She had only a cut on her hand. Why, he asked, would someone stab an unarmed man so many times and also shoot him, if it was just self-defense? Travis's family sat in the courtroom every day, often in tears, as they listened to Jodi smear Travis's character. Outside the courthouse, the public overwhelmingly sided with Travis's family, viewing Jodi as a manipulative liar rather than a victim. After a 4-month trial filled with dramatic moments, the jury delivered its verdict on May 8, 2013. Jodi Arias was found guilty of first-degree murder. Travis's family cried with relief at the announcement. Jodi, who had seemed so confident she could talk her way out of this, was now a convicted murderer. The final phase of the trial was to decide Jodi's sentence. Prosecutors pushed for the death penalty, citing the cruelty of the crime. Jodi, who just days earlier in a television interview had said she'd prefer death over life in prison, now pleaded for her life in court. She told the jury she was truly sorry and even talked about wanting to do good deeds in prison if allowed to live. Travis's family gave emotional statements describing their never-ending grief and asked the jury to impose the harshest punishment. The jurors struggled with this decision. In fact, they could not reach a unanimous verdict on her sentence, resulting in a hung jury for the penalty phase. That meant no decision, and it forced a retrial of the penalty in 2014. In the second penalty trial, a new jury also deadlocked. Finally, in April 2015, the judge stepped in and sentenced Jodi Arias to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Travis's siblings, though disappointed she didn't receive a death sentence, were relieved that she would never be free again. Today, Jodi Arias remains in an Arizona prison, serving her life sentence. She has appealed her conviction, but so far all appeals have been denied. The case of Travis Alexander's murder by Jodi Arias continues to fascinate the public because it has all the elements of a dark thriller with themes of love, obsession, and a shocking crime. But for those who knew Travis, it's not just a story on television, it's an unspeakably painful reality. Travis is remembered as a generous, motivational young man who had much to live for, and his family and friends will always mourn the brutal way he was taken from them. The story of Travis and Jodi stands as a cautionary tale of how a passionate affair can turn into a deadly tragedy, leaving one life ended and another life forever scarred by the weight of an unforgivable crime. Sometime after that encounter, in the early evening, Travis was in the shower, and Jodi was still there. She began taking pictures of him as he showered. The last known photo of Travis alive, taken around 5:30 p.m., shows him in the shower, likely unaware of what was about to happen. In the next moments, horror struck. Jodi attacked Travis in the bathroom. He was stabbed multiple times as he fought to get away. He managed to stagger down the hall, leaving a trail of blood, but Jodi pursued him relentlessly with a knife. She stabbed him 27 times and then, in a final act of brutality, slit Travis's throat from ear to ear. To ensure he was dead, she also shot him in the head with the .25 caliber gun. Within minutes, Travis Alexander lay dead on the floor, and the bathroom was drenched in blood. After the deed was done, Jodi set about covering her tracks. She dragged Travis's body back into the shower and briefly tried to wash away evidence. She gathered up the bloody bed sheets and the camera and put them in the washing machine, running it to destroy whatever might be on them. She wiped down surfaces to eliminate fingerprints and blood. She took the gun and the knife with her. Neither was ever recovered by police. Then Jodi fled the scene, getting in her car and driving away into the night, continuing on toward Utah as if nothing had happened. In the hours and days immediately after, Jodi behaved strangely calm. While driving away from Arizona, she called Travis's phone and left him a voicemail full of casual chit-chat, obviously trying to pretend she had no clue anything was wrong, creating the illusion she wasn't there. She then met up with her friend in Utah as planned on the 5th of June. This friend noticed Jodi had a cut on her hand and that her hair was suddenly dark brown, but she gave nonchalant explanations. She told him she had cut her hand on broken glass and had dyed her hair simply for a change. In Utah, Jodi laughed, flirted, and even kissed this new man, showing no sign of distress. It was as if she had already put the gruesome events in Mesa out of her mind. Back in Mesa, days passed with no word from Travis. He missed important meetings, and his friends and family grew worried. On the 9th of June, 2008, a group of his friends went to his house to check on him. There they encountered the terrible scene described earlier, Travis's bloodied body in the shower. They called 911 in a panic. Right away, they told the police dispatcher about Jodi Arias, explaining that Travis had an ex-girlfriend who had been stalking him and urging police to look into her. The investigation moved quickly. Police found plenty of evidence at the scene. The washing machine contained wet towels and Travis's digital camera with its memory card intact. Technicians recovered deleted photos from that camera, images from the 4th of June that told the story of what happened that day. These included the intimate pictures of Travis and Jodi, and even an accidental photo that appeared to show Travis bleeding on the floor. In the hallway, investigators discovered a bloody palm print on the wall. When it was analyzed, it turned out to contain a mixture of Travis's blood and Jodi's DNA. They also found a spent .25 caliber shell casing near the bathroom. All of this evidence pointed directly to Jodi Arias, and not to any unknown intruder. Detectives reached out to Jodi the next day. She agreed to come in for questioning. At first, Jodi calmly denied everything. She insisted she hadn't seen Travis for weeks, and that she was nowhere near his house on the 4th of June. She even offered an alibi, saying she'd been on a road trip to Utah and had the gas receipts to prove it, and conveniently left out that she took a detour into Arizona. Her relaxed demeanor during the interrogation was unnerving. At one point, left alone in the interview room, she even did a brief headstand against the wall, as if nothing was wrong. The detectives then confronted her with the evidence. They showed her some of the recovered photos and explained about the fingerprints and blood they found. At that point, Jodi's tone shifted, and she asked to change her story. She then spun a new version of events, claiming that two mysterious intruders had broken into Travis's home that day, attacked and killed him, and threatened her afterward, so she hadn't dared go to the police. It was a shocking tale, but police knew it was a lie. There was no sign of any other people at the scene. Jodi was promptly arrested and charged with Travis's murder. As the case headed toward trial, the sensational nature of the story grabbed headlines. A young, attractive woman accused of a barbaric killing, and her shifting stories made for compelling news. Jodi even gave an interview on television from jail, confidently declaring, "No jury will convict me." Many were curious to see how this drama would unfold in court. The trial began in January 2013, and it became a media circus.